plant 2025 is almost here for us on our farm, and then it's already started for farmers across the US. And before we really get into it, we wanted to create a video highlighting all of the decisions that farmers have to make throughout the growing season and talk about like different costs and everything that we all incur. So, hello and happy day. Welcome to New Age Custom Farming. If you're new here, we are a custom farming operation in Wisconsin. We do cash crops. We custom harvest forages for dairy farms. We raise cattle. We have a custom spraying business. We host events on our farm. And we also currently have a funny farm of 2 cats and a dog here at our house.
Yep.
It's quite the, and a tractor pull. It's quite the operation. Like anything, growing crops and farming comes with a lot of risks and rewards. So today we're going to walk you guys through all the decisions and pros and cons and everything that farmers have to weigh when it comes to growing their crops. And then, like I said, the costs that we incur along with it and how we hopefully make a profit at the end of the day. In today's video, we are going to talk about the cost of what it costs to grow one singular acre of corn using the 2024 crop budget from Purdue. So this is a disclaimer. This is not our personal numbers. This is a number that is average across the U.S. that the Purdue University gathered in their ag econ department. We wanted to use these numbers because it helps give a better idea for what farmers across the entire U.S. are facing. So if you're somebody watching from a completely other state, it's numbers that are at least somewhat relevant to everyone versus just us. Also, another disclaimer, these numbers are from 2024. Obviously, it's 2025 now, so numbers have changed a little bit, but this is what we're using for this video. This is also for corn on corn, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you said, I also have notes because I want to make sure we are completely accurate in what we're saying here. For the purpose of this video, we will be highlighting the 2024 expected costs for corn on corn. And again, we're just sharing these numbers so you as a viewer have a good understanding of what us farmers are dealing with.
Throughout the season, the choices that a farmer makes, the options that he has, and weighing those options to see if they're gonna be an ROI on your investment for different things that you can do.
Or if it's gonna go down the shitter.
You can't say that.
I'll bleep it out. A farmer has to acquire the land that they're going to grow their crop on. So they can either cash rent the land, so working with somebody who is already a landowner and rent the land from them to grow their crop, or they can purchase their land that they're growing their crop on. So for example, the field behind us is land that Avery purchased a few years ago, and that means he's paying a mortgage on it. So you're either paying cash rent or you're paying a mortgage, or if you're very lucky enough to have already paid off your land, then that cost is no longer there besides your tax.
Or have it given to you.
Gifted.
That would be real nice.
So if there's any older ladies watching this that have some land that they would like to work out a deal with me specifically.
Are you pimping me out?
No, I'm pimping myself out.
Older ladies?
Yeah, they want to gift it to the next generation of female farmers.
Oh, I thought you were sending me on a date.
No. They want to give it to the next generation of farmers.
An old man once told me I should take a look at the plat book and date out of there.
Yeah. There's the cost of land, and also when it comes to the cost of cash rent and stuff, that is determined between the landowner and the farmer based off of soil type, based off of past growing history, stuff like that. Then, beyond needing land, farmers will need equipment to be able to grow their crops. So you need tractors, a planter, tillage equipment, a sprayer, combine, and there are some parts of this that you can choose to hire out. For example, Avery with his custom crop protection business, farmers will hire him to come in and spray for them versus them owning a sprayer themselves. But again, that's all a cost and benefit, or like a risk and reward, cost and benefit that a farmer has to evaluate of if it's worth them having their own sprayer or if it would make more sense to hire somebody else out. Same with combining too. Like we've been hired to help combine some people's corn, and vice versa. We've had to hire some people occasionally too to help us out. So like I said, the Purdue model then covers these costs as what is called the contribution margin, which just covers equipment, fuel, stuff like that, and overhead costs, and they value that at $217 per acre, and they also allocate $24 per acre for machinery fuel and $45 per acre for machinery repairs. So now that we have all of those upfront costs, or I would kind of consider them somewhat fixed costs, covered, we'll then get into the decisions that we have to make when it comes to hopefully putting a crop in the ground behind us. So decision number one, to till or not to till. Before you're actually putting seed in the ground, you can either choose to do a no-till program or to do a tillage program. So how do you as a farmer make your decision on to till or not to till, and then what tillage passes to make?
I guess I kind of look at the previous year usually. In our situation where we live, in the soil conditions we have, every time we till, it's better than not tilling. So we usually try and do a fall tillage. What happens with a fall tillage is you loosen up the soil, open it up, just like this was tilled in the fall. And then when we have a hard freeze in the winter, that'll bring some compaction out of the ground too, because the frost will go deeper and break up the compaction layer. So we like to do that. I think Bree just got straightened out by the cat. We like to do that because it battles compaction, and then it also will break down the residue in the field. So, I mean, I know a lot of people do no-till practices, and I've got nothing against them.
We do no-till beans sometimes.
Yeah, we'll do some no-till beans, and actually we'll do some no-till corn into bean stubble too. So, but like our corn on corn ground, for us, it's better to till it up. So
the next option that farmers will weigh is what seed to use. There are quite a variety of different seed companies, and then within the seed companies, there are varieties of seed that we can plant. So when a farmer is weighing those options, they want to, one, make sure they're working with a company that they like their seed, they trust their program and stuff like that. And then also look at the varieties that they have available. So for example, I think it was 2 years ago on this field, the wrong variety was planted, and it was
in half of it.
It was going to be like a really great year on this field, but the wrong variety got planted on half of it. The variety
Mason.
Yeah. The variety that was planted in here on the bad variety was one that was made for
dry land.
So this field behind us is irrigated, and the field got irrigated. So
he came from a dry land field and still had seed in the planter, and ended up planting half a field with it before he switched varieties. Which it's hard. It's hard to micromanage everything for us. It's we got to keep moving, and we can't be emptying the planter out to do it. I mean, there's ways to do it. Figure out how many acres you got left in the dry land, and only the seed tenders have a scale on them, and only put enough in to finish, and then but it just becomes
cumbersome.
Yep.
But so anyway, back to, we have to weigh what varieties to be planted. So we need to understand our soil type, soil conditions, anticipate-ish what the weather is going to be. Like, for example, if you're going to have a year that's more like of a drought, then having more dry land varieties would be good. But if you have a field like this that's irrigated, where you can control the moisture a little bit more, then you're going to want to plant a variety that is more suited for that, so you can maximize the yield potential in your field.
Yeah. The other thing to weigh with seed is, we talked about brand, is price. I mean, you can go buy a cheaper seed, but it's hard to knock them. But sometimes the cheap stuff isn't the best, and sometimes it can be okay. And the other thing that you have to weigh is your populations, how many seeds you're going to put per acre, because that's going to drive your cost up too.
That's going to drive your cost up, and it can affect your yield.
Correct.
And then the other thing to decide when it comes to planting is what to all include in your planter, because you can add different stuff to your planter along with your seed to help your crop grow.
Yep, you can do different inoculant treatments on the seed. You can put fertilizer 2x2, which means that you stream fertilizer in next to the seed and not in the furrow. Then you can do in-furrow treatments. starter fertilizers in furrow. You can do insecticide. You can do biostimulants. You can do micronutrients. I mean, you could, in the planter, you could spend a ton
an
of money.
astronomical amount of money. But again, that goes to how much do you spend versus how much do you get back from it.
Yep. In our case, we like to err on the side of nutrients in the soil. So if you have good nutrients in your soil and good soil health, all this other stuff, I'll call it, is more of a supplement for a good soil. So like that stuff usually thrives in poor soil conditions. So we just try and make our soil conditions good, and then we don't need to worry about that.
So then it comes to fertilizer and crop protection. So your sprayer pass after things are planted, and there are, again, of course, more decisions to be made there.
Right. So you can fertilizer, we do soil sampling to know what the levels of our potash and phosphorus and everything. I mean, we can test for everything, and you can kind of know right away if you're lacking in something, maybe you should do something different. As for protection, you have to make the decision whether you're going to do a one-pass program or a two-pass program, or if you're going to do fungicide later on. That would be 3 passes. So it all depends. Like if you own your own sprayer, you can look at the 2-pass as a more viable option because you're not paying somebody to apply your field twice. But also, now do you do it all one pass up front and hope it holds all year? Because a lot of times as a sprayer operator, a lot of times I see people try and do that, and they put this big expensive load out up front, and if it doesn't rain, it doesn't activate the chemical, and then you're going out on a second pass anyway. So now it costs you twice as much because you sprayed that big load out front, and then you still have to come back and fix it. Now you can spray a one-pass post-emerge when the corn is pop can high or so. You can go out and spray your one-pass then, but you also risked weeds coming in to the field until you get to there. So is that hurting your yield? Probably. It's hard to say. It all depends on an operation. So we do a 2-pass spray program on all of ours.
And then on top of that, of not only including like synthetic crop protection products, you can also choose to include then again micronutrients, biostimulants, stuff like that. So, and
like with a first pass spray, we spray our 32% nitrogen. We spray 20 gallons out personally on ours, and then now the question is, do you put a nitrogen stabilizer in so the nitrogen doesn't leach out of your soil away from where the seed is and be wasted? Because when the seeds are tiny and the plants are tiny, they can't dive deep for the nitrogen. If you get a lot of rain, the nitrogen's gone before the plant can ever even use it, and that was a waste of money. But
then you also need rain too to be able to activate.
Yep, but like a stabilizer costs money too. So you just you're protect. In my opinion, it depends on your soils. For all you guys in Iowa, they have super heavy soils. You put your nitrogen on last fall and it's still there all year, and that's the only one you do. In this sand, we apply it probably 3 different times throughout the season. I'll spray some up front, and then we'll put nitrogen on through the irrigation, and then we'll come in and side dress it too with urea at 3 different timings, because it leaches out of the soil so fast that if you put it all up front, it would be gone by the 4th of July. It'd all be gone.
You have irrigation. You have to decide when and if and when to irrigate. Obviously that depends a lot on what Mother Nature gives us, but you're always obviously watching the weather and deciding, do I wait? Do I put water on now?
Yeah, the water thing is, in my opinion, some people worry about it too much. If I think it even needs water, it gets watered. So.
And then he makes it so it's big enough that it goes on my garden too.
Yeah.
And then the final question up front then too is, do you use crop insurance or not? So technically a farmer does not have to purchase crop insurance for their crops that they are putting into the ground. However, a majority of farmers do, simply because it's very volatile. Like we mentioned, there's so many different things that you are facing when it comes to your success of your fields. And I think insurance is worth it, but some farmers don't, and that's up to them.
Yep. The amount of money involved in growing a crop, I mean, I don't know. In the end, like, if you look back 30 years, like a 30-year history,
Average.
we would have been better off not having it and saving our money. But you also have to look back, if there was a year that you wouldn't have made it through, right? You might not, maybe it saved you and you wouldn't have made it to farm another year because you didn't have it. So it's easy to look back and say, oh yeah, we should have never bought it. But
there's going to be a year when you need it, and if that's a year that you chose not to have it and it's a year that you need it.
Yep. And everybody insures their car and their house and their boat and their everything else.
And their health.
And their health. Yeah. And that's all altogether, it's kind of cheaper than putting a crop in the ground.
Yeah.
So
now it's time to talk numbers about all of those decisions. Again, the Purdue model puts the cost of fertilizer for 1 acre of corn at $209, the cost of seed at $124, the cost of crop protection products at $111. The cost of crop insurance is $48, and that brings the current total for just one singular acre of corn to $778. Okay, so that is all of our growing season, all of the inputs. Now we get to the success, which is, or the end of the year, hopefully success, which is harvest. So here are some decisions we have to make when it comes to harvest. Is when you should start harvesting. How do we make that decision?
As soon as we can, we start, because otherwise we'll be harvesting Christmas morning.
Which I don't want that. I would rather be enjoying all the gifts from Santa.
Right.
So we personally just go as soon as we can. And for us, we typically will go from fourth crop hay straight into chopping corn, straight into harvesting corn and soybeans. Typically, when we're on our final-ish days of chopping corn, we are starting one crew's combining.
Yep. Yeah, and when I say as soon as we can, it doesn't necessarily mean as soon as the crop is ready. It means as soon as we get out of the choppers, we can start.
We go into combining.
Yeah. If it's fit, if the crop is ready, and it usually is. The reason that people decide when to harvest is because of the moisture of the grain, because you have to dry a grain down to 15% generally to be able to store it in bins so it doesn't rot. You get the moisture out of the grain and then it'll store nicely. So there's a cost in drying the grain from 25% down to 15%, and obviously the cost of the more you got to dry it, the more it costs to dry.
And we'll get talking a little bit about that in a little bit. So you're basing it off of the moisture and if the corn or crop is ready to go, but then once you are harvesting, it is a determination of how you are hauling the corn from your field to wherever you're taking it. So you can either have your own trucks, which again is an overhead cost, or you can hire trucking done, but there's obviously a cost associated with that as well. We have our own trucks, but that's also, we're using them all summer long when it comes to, we're using our straight trucks all summer long when it comes to harvesting forages and hauling forages. And then we have our own semis as well, and that's also, they're being used all winter long hauling our corn as well. So for us, it makes sense to have our own fleet, but some farms, you also have to have a truck driver. Right. On top of it, which is more labor,
and there's a cost in insuring it and licensing it, and truck drivers are a hot commodity, so you have to pay them enough to want to drive your truck instead of somebody else's. tires wear, all that stuff too. So there's a cost to everything for sure.
To decide is how will it be stored. So,
or if you will store it.
So you can either store it, sell it, or feed it, is what I like to say. So it all depends on
your storage too.
It all depends on how much storage you have. It depends on where you're selling your crop to. And it depends also on if you have any contracts with them that you have already signed and set, of knowing when you also are obligated to bring corn to them.
Yep.
And again, it all depends on price too.
And it depends on when you need your money.
Yes. Or the other option you can do is you can feed your crop to livestock. So for example, right now, or historically over the past year or so, beef prices have been really high while corn prices or commodity prices have been lower. So you could choose to work with your nutritionist, alter your ration that you feed your cattle or feed your livestock so that there's more corn in it, and then you feed that to your livestock and then sell your livestock, and then could have a larger return there because you fed your corn versus selling it on the commodity market.
Yeah, and the livestock market's funny to me because everybody jumps in when it's high,
and then it goes low,
and then it goes low because everybody jumps in, and then they're like, when the cattle are finally ready to be sold.
But my response to that, as an esteemed animal scientist, with her bachelor's of science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, go Badgers, is corn is a very high energy aspect of your ration, a hot part of your ration that you can feed towards the end of your cattle's life. So if you're feeding it towards the end, you're going to see that return quicker because you're putting that high energy product into them to finish them. When they're in those final stages, then you're selling them then. So you wouldn't typically put it in your young stock. You would put it more in towards the finishing animals, and then you'd likely see your return better versus if we were to put all of our corn in our calves right now, that won't be finished until 2 years, when the livestock market could tank because everyone and their brother wants to sell and have beef right now.
Right.
Decisions then based off of that, and then there also is a decision once your corn is stored of when to sell it, and that's based off of the commodity market, thanks to the Chicago Board of Trade, and global demand, which is a whole other slew of a conversation that we could have that
we're not going
to get into, at least not in this video. Maybe perhaps we'll get into it. I did take a lot of ag econ classes, and I took a 400 level commodity class, and I still am confused on some things. But if people want me to try and I'll go through my notes, try and piece together a little bit of a way to explain it, I can. It's a very complex thing, and I don't think people necessarily realize how complex the commodity market is. But in general, you work with, for example, where we sell our corn to, they'll send us out prices for futures, they'll send us out prices for your price today. You can set a contract, you'll say I'll sell X amount of bushels in this month. You haul your corn there and you sell it then.
Correct.
And that is the skinny on how that works. And obviously prices fluctuate a lot.
By the minute.
Yeah, by the minute.
Ouch, you shit. Get off of me. What the hell is that?
He loves to do that.
No, that hurts. I don't care.
So from there, the Purdue model puts the cost of hauling corn at $19. Dryer fuel, so like Avery said, once you harvest your corn, you haul it to where you're storing it, you have to dry it down. So dryer fuel for the corn at $48. And then any interest on anything related to your product at $32. So that brings the total cost for this acre of corn to $877 using the Purdue Crop Cost and Return Model from 2024. Now, obviously, farms, at the end of the day, farms are businesses. As a business, you want to be profitable. You want to have a good cash flow. You want to make money at the end of the year. There's a lot of inputs and a lot of things that can happen throughout your entire growing season that, farmers are gambling every single day with every single thing that they do. So As a farmer, then you have to hope that the seed that you planted in the beginning of the year grows to be a successful crop, high yielding crop, and then you also have to hope that you have a good price at the end of the day when you're selling your product. The Purdue model put the expected yield per acre for the corn using the model that we talked about at 179 bushels per acre, and then the break-even price for that acre must be $5.89. But according to the model, the price at the elevator during harvest was $4.90. Thus, the farmer who planted that acre of corn would be experiencing a net loss of $178. So that's just for 1 acre of field that they would be experiencing that net loss. Now imagine they had 100 acres of the very similar experience, or 500. That's a very large loss that farmer would be experiencing based off of just trying to grow their crop. So that then brings it to the point of, does a farmer sell it at that price, or do they store it and hope that in a few months there'll be a better price, or do they feed it?
Most farmers, every farmer I know, doesn't want to be subsidized. They want to have a good market.
Yeah.
That they can just sell their grain at a profit instead of a loss.
On that note of farmers can then choose, like we said, of all the decisions that you're making, throughout the growing season, do you try and cut costs to make it so you're profitable? But for example, let's say you cut your costs by $100 per acre, and those decisions that you made to cut that $100 made it so that you lost 30 bushels per acre of your yield. And for easy math sake, let's say the price was $5 and you lost 30 bushels. That means you would have a net loss of that of $150. So you cut your cost by $100, but you lost a yield potential of $150. So then you net loss $50 on that versus what you could have had. When it comes down to, again, every single decision we make, is it going to have an ROI? What ROI are we expecting? Is it worth it?
Yeah, and you can say a product. So say you have a product X that cost $15 an acre, but you make $15 an acre off of it, but you had to pay interest on the money because you had to put it in tomorrow and you didn't get the
money until harvest.
Or after,
you sell,
till maybe a whole year. I mean, we're still selling corn from last year. So if you paid interest on it for a whole year, you lost money. And you had to dry more bushels down, which is, more bushels is never really a bad thing, because if you have bushels in the bin, even if it costs you $15 an acre and you made $15 an acre off of it, but you have the bushels in the bin, you can't make any money off of a market rally if you don't have bushels to sell. So there's so many ways to skin the cat, no pun intended. So I don't know, we could ramble on for hours. But
and we're not sharing this video or making this video or sharing this information to make anyone feel any type of way. We just want to bring light to the conversation of what farmers are dealing with every single year when it comes to growing a crop, and the decisions that we have to make along the entire way. There's obviously a lot at stake when it comes to growing our crops, and
we're also not making this video to say poor me.
Yeah, this is not a woe is me type video. It's literally just an educational video.
Yep.
So that
obviously we make the choice to farm every day too.
Yeah.
So we could choose to do something different.
Yeah.
So.
But this is hopefully provided a lot of education and information for you guys to kind of take a step into our boots.
Yep.
Our rootin' tootin' boots, and see what it feels like to be a farmer. And again, as we are heading into our upcoming growing season and we are making these decisions every day, we are bringing you guys along as we are doing this. and we're happy to answer any questions you have. So always leave them in comments. I read them all the time. Avery's now logged into our YouTube so he can read them all the time, and we'll make sure to answer them, because the whole purpose of our channel is to bring education and entertainment on what it's like to be a Wisconsin farmer or to be a farmer, and to be able to provide that information to you is what we're here for.
Yep.
And also some entertaining moments along the way.
And the final thing to say is, once again, these are Purdue numbers. These are not New Age numbers. And if you actually made it to the end of this video, comment cat wrestling.
For people who have also been commenting and wondering where George is, he's right here.
He's right here.
He came to our house along with Betty, which Betty, turns out, is a boy, so. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. We hope you learned something from it. If we have not reached 50,000 subscribers by the time that this video airs, like, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe. We are doing a giveaway that I already announced for some of our t-shirts at 50,000 subscribers. And then we have another giveaway in the works for 50,000 subscribers that I am working out the final details for. So giveaways actually will now be happening every 5,000 additional subscribers we get. So we have one at 50,000, we'll have another one at 55, another one at 60, and so on and so forth. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share it to your friends, tell them to all subscribe.
And at 100,000, we get a hot farm.
We start building a hot farm.
I'm holding you to this, you know that, right?
I know. And Zach Johnson, the millennial farmer, will get to take a ride in there.
A spin on the old thunder,
Yeah.
the old thunder clutch.
Yes. So again, thank you guys so much. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. We appreciate you for always watching our videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.